welcome. It's yet another day, and we are glad to meet you on air once again as we continue with our Bible study. It's the Bible journey. Thank you very much for joining us this day as we continue this study. And of course, with me on set today to help us in this discussion are our two pastors. We have Pastor Kabira or Kabira. Welcome, Pastor.
Thank you.
Yes, and we have Pastor Peter Nyagah. Welcome, Pastor.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and we'll now start with the word of prayer, and I'll lead in the same. Mighty and everlasting Father, thank you for this special opportunity. Thank you for this time that we should learn from your word. May your Holy Spirit be with us from the beginning and to the end. Be with our viewer and also us. In Jesus' mighty name we pray.
Amen.
Amen. Now, pastors, welcome to our discussion today. Let's get to now we are getting, of course, we've dealt with the previous 9 plagues, which were actually have been leading. It has been step by step. And perhaps what I forgot last time to mention, to ask, is about the God that was under the test, Pastor Nyagah, of the plague number 9, about the darkness. Was there a God that was under the test as we get into this other study?
Of course, as we had said, and we've been saying here, that every plague here targeted a particular god, the Egyptian god. And there's a god called Amon-Ra.
Amon-Ra.
Amon-Ra. This god of different solar. The one who determine light and darkness, such kind of things. So again, when there was darkness for 3 days, it was so enough to demystify any argument, any scientific reasoning. Either this was a solar eclipse or something like that. Because if it was a day, then they would say, okay, maybe it was a solar eclipse or something like that. But 3 days, then it means this particular god also was defeated.
Was in no control at all. Now, in chapter 11, now that's where we are beginning. Of course, the book of Exodus chapter 11, from verse 1, it says, "And the Lord said to Moses, I'll bring one more plague on Pharaoh and on Egypt. Afterwards, he will let you go from here. When he lets you go, he will surely drive you out here altogether." And now in verse, I think, which verse is this? Then Moses said in verse 4, "Thus says the Lord, about midnight I'll go out in the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits in his throne, even to the firstborn of the female servant who is behind the handmill, and all the firstborn of the animals." Now, God is already, this is actually an announcement that I'm going to do this, and this is what I'll do. I'll destroy all your firstborn of everything, not just human beings, not just Pharaoh, not just his servants, but also of animals. And this seems to be one of the toughest plagues that would have struck the Egyptians, Pastor Kabira.
Let's begin with the reality of firstborn. Why are firstborns so important? And why firstborns? I think it was in one of these episodes where we talked about the value of a firstborn. A firstborn had 3 blessings. I mean, different from every other. Well, I'm a firstborn. I keep on saying I just love that point. If it was in those days, I knew I have 3 blessings that are different from everybody else. Just even before I get into the Pharaoh side, firstborn was the priest of the entire family. So ideally, as for me, my father's family were just 2. In case of when my father will not be there, I pick up the mantle as a priest of the family. So you see, it gives me a higher value. And then number 2 is double blessings. When everybody else is getting half, I will get a whole. If my father has land and he's dividing and is giving everybody a quarter, I am supposed to get half because I am the firstborn. And then third is now, it was a progenitor of Christ. We said that is the firstborn. Now it was through his lineage where Jesus Christ was supposed to be born. And so with that in mind, we now need to think of why the value in firstborn. Esau and Jacob are fighting over who should be firstborn because it means a lot. It means a lot. So sometimes we may think like firstborn only. You know, if you kill a firstborn, if a man has 10 children, there are 8 more to be able to work out. But a firstborn could not be replaced. And that's why, look at how he describes chapter 4, verse 21. This is how God refers to...
That's to Exodus?
Yes, that is Exodus 4, 21. 21 and 22. We already, 22 and 23, we already did that. It says, then you shall say to Pharaoh, thus says the Lord, Israel is my son, not just any son, my firstborn. So I say to you, let my son go, that he may serve me. But if you refuse to let him go, indeed I will kill your son, your firstborn. Because if my son does not stand up to be who he is, then nobody will be able to stand. That point has to be clear. And Pharaoh knows this. It's not like, you know, if you see, the whole of chapter 11 is an entire announcement about firstborn. It's not like Pharaoh did not know. Pharaoh knew this is coming, but he still thought like maybe God doesn't mean it. How? You remember when the other Pharaoh that was there was harassing the Israelites. What did he do? He wanted all the male-born sons to also be killed. So he does not think that it can really happen on him. And so the entire chapter 11 is just an announcement of God's fulfillment of the warning he had made. And God is very sure. This one, we will not.
In fact, there is a pause. Chapter 11 is like a pause before he does. You know, the death of the firstborn happens in chapter 12 from verse 29. You know, we have quite, you know, it's preparation time. Let's prepare for what is coming. We need to be ready for this because it is an exit sign.
It's not even exit. It's what will crumple totally the heart of Pharaoh, because the whole idea of Pharaoh was, after me, you know, for purposes of dynasties, for purposes of rulership, after me, my firstborn takes over, after me. So if I happen to touch this firstborn, we are done with this family completely. So it was a very heavy thing for Pharaoh to even just think of that point.
Yes, Pastor.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. Maybe the way chapter 11 opens is informed by how chapter 10 closes.
Yeah.
And maybe to remind our viewers, if some were with us last discussion, chapter 10, of course, when we were looking at the ninth plague, chapter 10, verse 27, 28, and 29, we can pick from there. Yeah. But the Lord handed Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go. Verse 28, then Pharaoh said to him, get away from me, take heed to yourself, and see my face no more. For in the day you see my face, you shall die. Now, reading that we may not let somebody get the mood,
the weight of
and the
words,
feelings and the emotions that are intended in these verses. But if you look them keenly, you see that Pharaoh is speaking from deep emotions. It's so much, you know, annoyed, and actually this is anger, you know, and it tells Moses, let me not see you again, because if I see you again, you're going to die. And Moses' response, so Moses saying, you have spoken well, I will never see you face again. You know, you can imagine, and that's how it ended. But I'm thinking also Moses may have gone back.
He went back, yes.
God, it's too much.
Yeah.
This guy even is threatening me. You see, and I'm looking at a man of God, a servant of God, in his human nature. I remember Elijah, you know, even after he did a lot for the Lord, you know, he could run away from a simple woman, and many other servants of God. So even when we serve and stand the side of the Lord, there are times when our humanity overweighs our faith. But the good thing is, at that particular moment, God comes in, because now the way chapter 11 opens is very, very important for us to note. It opens completely different from how other chapters and the beginning of such episodes have been happening. And the Lord said to Moses, I will bring one more plague on Pharaoh and on Egypt. Afterward, he will let you go from here. It's like God is answering Moses, God, till when? But God is saying, no, wait, just wait, Moses.
Just a moment.
Yeah, just one more. One more, I'm sorting you out. Okay?
Yeah.
And then God comforts. And so this tells me, especially those of our viewers who are out there and they're servants of God, maybe they're pastors, they're elders, they're church leaders in various aspects. There are those moments you become so aware, you want to give, you want to go back to the pastor and say, Pastor, I can't do this thing. No. But God, at that particular moment, comes and says, just hang on, hang on.
Just a little bit more, and I'm still
with
there
you.
with you.
I'm with you. Don't feel that I'm not watching. I'm watching.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Just wait. I'm going to do it for you. Wow. And so that's what I'm seeing as we start getting to chapter number 11.
Yeah, and look at verse 2, unless you have something before you get to verse 2.
No, I wanted to go straight to verse number 2.
Yeah, because verse 2 says, Speak now in the hearing of the people, and let every man ask from his neighbor, and every woman from her neighbor articles of silver and articles of gold. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man Moses was very great in the land of Egypt, in the sight of Pharaoh, Pharaoh's servants, and in the sight of the people. So, these people have been under oppression for all these years. And I tend to believe, because they were slaves, a slave is not really entitled to payment. If there is any payment, it's very meager, something just to help you survive with your family, to continue working for your boss. So these people have been under oppression, and now it seems like payback time. They have to pay for the services. The Egyptians have to pay for the services that they have gotten all these years, Pastor. Yes, you can go ahead, then we bring in Pastor Kabira.
Yeah, I mean, verse 2, speak now in the hearing of the people, comes as a time when God has first comforted a servant. You have a work with me. So don't fear your enemy. That is not your enemy, is my enemy. But I sent you to come and deliver the people. So talk to them. Talk to them. Now, he has been telling all through Moses, speak to Pharaoh. Now he's telling Moses, speak to the people. It is time now, from this incident, where Moses shift his mind and his attention and his strength from Pharaoh and focuses on his people that he has come to deliver. And from this particular incident, we will see now Moses hands-on with people, directing them and telling them, God speaks to him, tell the children of Israel do this, and that will begin their long journey for the next about that 8 years, or even close to 40 years. Moses now, it's God, Moses, the children of Israel. But if you know that since it began, it was God, Moses, Pharaoh.
Yeah.
So now there's a change of how now things will be happening from this particular moment.
Now, Pastor, talk about all this favor that the Lord is showing upon the children of Israel.
And I'm even feeling pity on behalf of Egyptians. They have suffered through the plagues. Their food has been destroyed. And then here is a slave saying, now the things that you are remaining with, please give me.
Yeah.
I was trying to, of course, Deuteronomy 15:12-15 talks about when a slave works for you for 6 years, for the 7th year you set him free, but you don't let him go, give him something to go with. But that will be simple if you're a Christian, not if you're willingly oppressing someone. It's like I do some little prison ministries. And when I'm done, I'm imagining the guy who was in prison says, I want to thank you for releasing me, but I'm asking that the things I was working for, can you give me a lot of it? We're not talking of kidogo. Normally, they're given fare from the prison you are to where you are arrested. That is what they normally do. And usually it's not even enough. It's usually 100 shillings or 150 or 200. Rarely have I even heard of the prison I work with, and nobody has ever been given 500 shillings. So they have to walk all the way. Now imagine this prisoner saying, give me money. And not just little money, silver and gold. And by that, they mean, let every man ask for his neighbor. Articles of silver and articles of gold. But verse 3 is what makes it possible. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. The Egyptians were like, thank you so much. Why are you thanking us, by the way? You know, favor means I am giving you as a favor. You don't deserve it. How does a slave come and say, give me, and you give and say, I think I need, you deserve, let me give you this one because of what? You've been nice. When you are working for me, you didn't steal from me or something. Nothing. This can only work within the framework of God talking to Egyptians. Imagine God talking to Egyptians, and I am one of those people who doesn't know how to borrow money. I would rather suffer. So I'm imagining if it was us being saved, I would have very big issues with, excuse me, my Egyptian neighbor, can you help me with silver and gold? You know, these are not things you borrow. These are things you work for under Lord. And God gives that favor. Of course, God did not want his own people to be slaves. He wanted to tell the Israelites, you are here. Somebody might have been blaming, but God, you're the one who told Jacob to come to Egypt. And by extension, you called us to what? To slavery. So it is your fault. But then here is somebody, God giving an answer is, relax, I'm dealing with the issues one by one. You know, it's like, everybody come on. Pharaoh, I'm dealing with you. Moses, you doubted me, I'm dealing with you. You Israelites, you doubting me, I'm dealing with you. But here is a small gift to go on your way. And there's silver and gold. That was used, by the way, continuously, not just for the golden calf, including of making the temple, including of the making of the tabernacle in the wilderness. There was so much gold that it was like deposit, wamerudishiwa. When they get to Canaan, you have to begin afresh with proper money.
And I'm wondering, Pastor, as you come in, were these people and this Pharaoh blindfolded to such an extent that they don't see the magnitude of the plague that is coming? Because Moses is making it very categorical that your firstborn shall be killed, not just your servants, but also yours as Pharaoh. They will die, so that you may deliver my people. And still, he hardens his heart as usual, as if it's just any other plague.
Well, I think that can only be explained or maybe understood if we appreciate that this is a story. And the characters here represent certain things. Like Moses represent God in this story. The children of Israel represent the people of God who need to be delivered from the powers of darkness. The Egyptians are people who are living in the camp of Satan, where Pharaoh is the Satan in this story. And so if we understand Pharaoh as Satan, we see here Satan and God in a contest. I don't think there is any time Satan is going to say, yes, God, you have overcome me. He will fight to the very last minute. Okay? But the subject of Satan, the people that the devil is taking control of, the people he's ruling, many of these people are going to know that God is more powerful than Satan. And they will do things that the devil thinks that they are not willing to do. So, and I'm looking at this, Pharaoh is not prepared. He is not sure whether these people are willing to let the children of Israel live. And number two, is very sure they cannot give them gifts. But to his surprise, when this came up, they gave them even to excess. Give them to excess.
They are very willing.
Yes. And that shows many times the claim the devil has on people are not true. He's a liar. And at times, he binds us, not because we love Satan, but because he has taken us captives. We have no freedom. And any time there's an avenue for us to exercise our will, then we do it on the favor, on the side of God. And so that's what I'm finding from this particular story, that these people were more than willing to give the gifts to the Israelites. But also, again, of course, from humanly speaking, but all these plagues, every manner of plague has come your way. Death and frustrations and pain, life is almost coming to a standstill. Do you want, I would give them anything they wanted, just for the sake of them getting out of me.
Just leave.
Yeah.
I'll sort out myself
Yes.
later.
What, you know, there's a day some thugs caught me somewhere, and they were asking for money, and then put a gun here on me. And I was telling them, you know, check on this pocket. There's some money also in this other pocket. Because what I want is them to get off me.
You just need your freedom.
Yes.
Yeah.
And perhaps also the Egyptians here.
Yeah, I think that was the same attitude.
Yes, yes.
We need you people to live
Yes,
because
yes.
you suffered
What you
enough.
want, we are willing to give you. And that's why, Pastor, he said they were given a lot of these jewelries that even after they used them, making that gold and whatever, still they remained with a lot of them because they were given in excess.
Pastor, maybe your final thoughts on the announcement, because when you resume after the break, I want us to go to the institution of the Passover.
Wow. Then that will be, you'll have skipped a lot, but it's okay.
Yeah, and I need you to.
You know,
give us at least
by the way, chapter 29 ends. Chapter 29, I mean, verse 29 of chapter 10 should end at the last line of verse 8. All this, by the way, is the Lord speaking to Moses. When Moses has been told, "You have spoken well, I will never see your face again." Once him and Pharaoh are like, "We are done with each other. Let's never see each other again." Then the Lord comes to Moses and tells him, "My guy, relax. Really, relax. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do at midnight. This is what is going to happen." Verse 8 ends by saying, "Then he went out from Pharaoh in great anger." He's not angry at God. He's angry that now he's done. You know, it's the weakness of man. As a pastor, I have gone through this kind, let me not say anger moments, but really disappointed, including today. You know, you try and speak to someone, please, again, the things that are coming before you are going to destroy you. And you're not hearing, you're not listening. Then all of a sudden, you think like, this guy will not be helped. This guy cannot be helped. Moses, remember it's Moses who's writing this. He walks out in anger, not the anger in terms of, he's angry at Pharaoh. He doesn't know what he's asking for. You know, he's so angry, like, please listen. Remember the last time he was pleading with him, please listen. And he doesn't listen. He hardens that. Now this time, the things that are coming, I think he has given up with Pharaoh. He now can be able to agree with God that this guy is beyond redemption completely. And that is why now he goes out in anger, not the anger of disappointment in Pharaoh, but now he now understands that really God has done his best and Pharaoh has been able to reject. Of course, now verse 9 and 10, I will say, verse 9 and 10 is now a summary of the entire 9 plagues. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Pharaoh will not hit you, so that my wonders may be multiplied in the land of Egypt." So Moses and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh, and the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart and did not let the children of Israel go out of his land. This is a summary now of the entire 9. Because the next one that is coming is so out big. Of this world. We don't, and this is what is making, I don't know, but if you've come, maybe you feel disappointed as a human being. When I speak, I'm saying this because I once felt bad. We use it to sometimes in a bad way. You call somebody, you ask somebody, please, I'm begging you, we can do this, we can do that, please repent, change, and do this and this. Then out of nowhere, a person dies. For me, it carries a lot of emotional burden on me every time. When I have tried to plead with someone, I'm saying that because it happened yesterday. When we were coming, you were hearing me talking about the stories. It carries a lot of emotional burden on me because what else would I have done? What else could I have done? Because I have done my best, 9 plagues, and this guy is still hardening his heart. I don't know.
What else could be done?
What else could I do?
Pastors, finally, on the issue of the announcement.
Yeah, I think now we are closing the curtain on the many pleadings with Pharaoh. And we are prepared to let God now start working with the children of Israel, because we're going now to start seeing God instituting the Passover, and then the deliverance, of course, which comes as a result of the slaying of the firstborns. But as it were, the curtains now are being pulled down on the side of Pharaoh, meaning there is no any other room for him to repent. It's closed now.
The closing of the door of mercy.
Oh yeah, this is where we are now. On the side of Pharaoh, the curtains is coming down. And from this particular time, we won't see God consulting or telling Pharaoh anything. We'll just see God acting. Yeah. And I think it's good for our viewers to learn that there is a time which comes and God has to pull down your curtain.
He won't plead anymore.
Oh yeah.
Wow. You know, but just before, I know you finish, verse 7 and 8 should give us a summary of the reason of all this. Finally, this is what is making all this. But against none of children of Israel shall a dog move its tongue against man or beast, that you may know that the Lord does make a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. Number 8, verse 8. And all these your servants shall come down to me and bow down to me, saying, get out, and all the people who follow you. After that, I will go out. You know, God is saying, all I really wanted is for you to humble yourself. Let my people go. It's not worked out. Now, let me take them out. You know, you had your own volition. You didn't take it up. Now, it's my turn to take away people. All I imagine it was just humble yourself and let people go. That was all. But then we have an entire, how many chapters? From chapter 5 all the way to chapter 11, just for Pharaoh to be told, humble yourself. And he doesn't do that. I don't know if there is a bigger indictment of human heart more than that. 9 pleadings. 9. I mean, 9 pleadings and still nothing. As a human being, hata unaweza sema, wacha aende.
Thank you very much, our dear viewer, for being with us on that first part of our discussion. We are taking a short break. We'll resume shortly as we now look at the Passover, and you know, quite a lot ahead of us, so that we may learn from it. So don't go away. We are coming back shortly. I think you've heard it through our first segment of this show that God is always pleading with us, and He'll always provide all avenues to make sure that at least we get to understand the real issue and turn our backs from our sins and turn to Him, turn our faces to Him. But sometimes we don't learn. It's important that we learn, because when the curtains are drawn down, then He won't plead anymore. And that is what we are talking about now. The Lord has pleaded with Pharaoh for quite a long time, and now He's taking kind of a break to concentrate with His own children, so that He may prepare them for something great that is happening. Remember, we've talked about the 9 plagues. Now there remains only one, but before it happens, because when it happens, it will cause a lot of emotions, and it will be exit time by force, because that's what He mentioned before to Moses and even to Pharaoh. Now, the Passover institutions, Pastor, you know, it's God seems to be preparing His people for the Passover, which is something that we even experience up to date. It's something that has remained to be there, because here we are talking about something that was instituted that was even a foreshadow of some other thing. Maybe we start from just mentioning about the Passover and how the Lord is preparing His people. Maybe I start with Pastor Kabira.
Well, this is where now we get to understand description and prescription when it comes to God's ordinances. There are general stories where we draw moral lessons and spiritual lessons. And then there is prescription where God is very specific on what he wants. And an example of it is found during the Passover time. The Passover was instituted by God. End of story. Is it edited? Can we be able to edit it? No. Parts of it, yes. Parts of it, no.
Okay.
We only edit parts that are are about description, about how the scenario was, where they will be, and what have you. But about the instruments, the few things that God wants to be able to be instituted, which he passes over all the way to up to the New Testament, those ones are not changeable. By the simple fact that they belong to God. It's God who asked and gives a reason as to why. So that we may be able to remember, when you read 1 Corinthians, that we may be able to remember blood and the flesh that was there. We'll not be able to see the same scenarios here. The symbolism that is there is very prescriptive about what to be slaughtered, how to be applied, where to be applied. Even if you are over-enthusiastic about it, the prescriptions concerning Passover were very simple and precise and easy to know. But for any man who did opposite, who exaggerated, who thought maybe that is not possible, who thought maybe it means something different, the repercussions were very severe. That's all I want to begin with by saying at this particular point.
Yeah, and maybe before I come back to you, let me introduce especially from verse 1 to 3. Now the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron on the land, in the land of Egypt, saying, "This month shall be your beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th of this month, every man shall take for himself a lamb according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. And if a household is too small for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the persons, according to each man's need. You shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, male of 1 year. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats." Pastor Nyagah, just on those particular verses.
Thank you so much. I think a few things I want to mention here. As we ended by saying that the curtains are drawn on the side of Pharaoh and the Egyptians, and God now he's turned his face to the children of Israel. And to keep our viewers reminded, what I've been always saying, that God is revealing himself bit by bit and organizing a people. Now, when you look at verse number 2, I'll mention a few things there. This month shall be your beginning of months. It means it was a month of a new year. It was the new month of the new year. So God is giving the children of Israel deliverance at the beginning of the year, perhaps to mark a change of things, a newness of life, a new beginning. And I think he's talking to us that God is a God of new beginnings. You could be living in a life of darkness, as they are coming from darkness and of filthiness, but always God gives us a new beginning. But again, I'm looking at it when it says, is verse number 3, "Speak to all the congregation of Israel." No, not the congregation of Israel. This is the first incident in the entire Bible when we have this phrase, "Speak to the congregation." And this is the term which was later developed to mean ecclesia or the church. This is where we get the church from. So God has now moved from the home of Abraham. He has come to establish not just a nation, but a church. Okay? And remember, we've been saying this drama in the Bible is about the plan of redemption. And Christ was to be born through a church. And the church would also come to become the bride. Okay? So there's something very special I want our viewers to understand here. That now, God is dealing with these people, the children of Israel, as a unique congregation now. It's a church. It's a people that he is going to buy, to deliver from his blood, okay? You know, it is his sacrifice that is going to deliver them. And so it tells Moses, no, don't talk to the children of Israel, but talk to the congregation, the people who meet to worship me, the people who share the same faith, the people who share the same belief, that are congregation of Israel. Okay? And so this is very significant, that actually God looks down and he sees us in this world full of darkness and all these kind of evil things. But to those who believe in him, he sees a church, a congregation, a people who are so dear to him. So that is what I find from the first few verses of the chapter number 12.
Yeah, and Pastor Kabira, look at what...
And maybe before Pastor Kabira comes, and that's why now the Passover here has to be practiced by the church. That's why even today we have it as a church. Not as a nation, but as a church.
As a church.
Because it was instituted to the congregation, the ecclesia of God.
Wow, wow. Look at the selection here. It's a lamb. It shall be without blemish.
Yes.
A male of the first year. Then it was supposed to, after that, it was supposed to be killed, you know, without, maybe, let's first of all talk about the characteristics of the lamb that was to be slain.
The instructions were like this, and they're very clear. You know, I like how God, you know, God before didn't have issues with mentioning of particulars. Just go to Israel, tell them, I am the Lord your God. If they ask you, you will show them these signs. But this one now is a different story. You and your household, every household was supposed to take one lamb. And if your household is so small, you combine with your neighbor. And then that lamb must be 1 year old, without blemish, and spotless, and must be male.
What was the importance of all this? Blameless, and
you know when we say blameless, we are talking about, I mean, not blameless in English terms, but without blemish, without spots. It was because it was prefiguring Jesus Christ himself. Our beginning, we owe it to Christ. That is very important for us to think of it. Our entire beginning, when the world began, our beginning was through Jesus Christ. Sorry. When we sinned, we began a new beginning again through Jesus Christ's death on the cross. God wanted to tell the Israelites, this is your beginning. As he says, you know, I like how God just randomly said, this month will now be the first month of the year. Whatever it was anywhere in Egypt, now this will be your January. Because this will be the beginning of everything else. So therefore, if it is the beginning of everything else, you need to understand this concept very well. This lamb that is spotless means it's never done a mistake. A 1 year old, it's a very innocent word. It's a very innocent lamb. You cannot blame it for what it's happened. A 1 year lamb probably does not have diseases, let me say like that, because it's not been able to graze around, does not have all this. We could come up with scientific stories about all that, but that doesn't matter. What matters is God wanted the Israelites to understand the enormity of this Passover and how much it means. You see, he ends by saying, just to preempt, of course, verse 11 says, it is the Lord's Passover. Those are the last words. It is the Lord's Passover. It is not for us. I mean, it's for us, yes, he's done it for us, but exclusively it belongs to the Lord. If you want to partake in it, you follow what God has said. If you don't want to partake of it, then it doesn't matter to you.
I want to come back to you on the issue of the blood. After the slaughtering of the lamb, you had to, you know, sprinkle the blood on the doorpost and the lintel. But Pastor, again, looking at the lamb, how does it in any way prefigure Jesus Christ?
I will say yes. And so, with every intention. Maybe let's just read keenly these verses so that I can highlight a few things here. Now, from verse number 3.
Yes.
Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th of this month, every man shall take of himself a lamb according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small, for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the persons, according to each man's need. You shall make your count for the lamb. Verse 5, your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats. Now, verse number 6, you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. I'm interested with verse number 6. Now you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. Then the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it at twilight, and they shall take some of the blood and put it on the two doorposts and on the dintel of the houses where they eat it. Look at the description of the lamb is blemish. And Pastor John has explained that. Of course, you know, Christ was made sin. He who knew no sin. But there is something also very important here, that the description and the condition of this particular lamb is that each family, once they identifies that blemish lamb, they were supposed to keep it
until the 14th.
In their house. This is what the Bible is telling us here. You are taking it from the herd, okay? You isolate it, you come and you keep it, it stays with you. This to show how important, because this particular lamb, when it is being sacrificed, it ought to be something very close to the family, something very precious. Something that you have even taken care of. And there are 14 days here when they were supposed to stay with that lamb in their houses.
You know, 4 days. Or picking on the 10th and keeping it until the 14th.
Yes. I mean 4 days when they were supposed to stay. And I'm looking at this like as, you know, showing how not only how Jesus was without sin, but also how precious Jesus was. And is. And that had to be communicated because the lamb was a type of Jesus Christ. And so the way Jesus is without sin, so the lamb was to be without sin, and Jesus is special. So the lamb is also special. It's a precious thing.
Was there an element of
and again, it is taken from the family. It is taken from the family, not just from the other sheep. When it is being sacrificed, it is taken from the family.
The family.
Yes. And so Jesus is taken from his family.
He is our first big brother.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And he's killed. And who kills the lamb? The family. And so who killed Jesus?
It's
the
us.
family.
Wow. Pastor Kabira, the sprinkling of the blood, the significance of the blood.
Let me begin by Hebrews 9:22. And according to the law, almost all things are purified with blood, and without shedding of blood, there is no remission
of sin.
Of course, it continues with the entire story. Why blood? Why not anything else? This was an act of faith. First and foremost, it was an act of faith. It wasn't the applying of blood that was saving you. But it was in faith that if I apply this, the Lord will not visit me and kill my firstborn. I hope we are able to separate all that. It is not the blood that was saving. It was in following Christ's instructions by faith, believing that finally, if I apply this, I'll be saved.
Was it so? Because, you know, I had some discussion some time back, and some people, there was this explanation that even some Egyptians did the same, and their children, their firstborns, were saved through that. And I don't think there was an element of faith there, that I believe in this blood. They only did it so ignorantly, but the blood is the one that saved them. And some Egyptians actually joined the household of the Israelites. to be with them and celebrate the Passover with them.
That is faith. What you're just describing is faith.
Ignorant faith?
That is, faith makes you not even think sometimes. Like, I believe in God.
Yes.
Does not make sense. If somebody asked you, where is God? How will you say you believe in God? The aspect of faith that we are dealing here is the Egyptians had also people applying blood. They will have said, that is nothing, just blood. Why will you apply? But they still knew, if these guys are applying, we better apply.
Yeah.
That is an act of faith on its own as it stands. And I want to say the blood was a symbolism. It is not the blood that was applied is not what was saving the firstborns, but it was God himself who sent the angel. For every house that there was no blood applied, the angel passed over. Passed over. That's that's a whole meaning of passing over.
For every house that the blood was applied, the angel passed
Just
over.
passed over. Passed over meaning redeemed. Saved that family. Saved that family for whatsoever. In that context, I want us to imagine blood. Blood is life. That's a whole meaning. We begin by explaining about the whole life. When you remove blood from somebody, it is regarded as life. You've killed.
You've removed life.
You've removed life. So for you to now take a lamb that is blameless, apply its blood, you're literally saying, now this life of this lamb, now I have. And that's where now Christ's coming in. Wow. Him being the blood on our behalf. Of course, in the end, I'll say the whole story about applying blood and what have you. Some people look at it as gross and raw, but this was more of a practice. When you read Deuteronomy chapter 6, continuing, they were even supposed to write, trust in the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. You also write on the door. What is it? Because it's when you get in, you're trying to say, I believe that when I'm going in and when I'm going out, that this God is protecting me. Wow. So in the end, it was more of something continuous. Yes.
I see, Pastor.
I just wanted again, because we are just emphasizing on the fact that the lamb is Jesus Christ. And verse number 11 says, and thus you shall eat it. So the lamb was not just to be slain. It was to be eaten after slain.
Yeah.
Christ was not just to die on the cross. He was to be consumed after his death. And so we have killed him, so it is our time to consume Jesus. And every Christian needs to feed on Jesus Christ. So there's a point here. Many people stopped it at slaying. He has died. So it is enough because he died. And after all, he said it is finished. But after killing comes what?
The dining. The eating.
The eating, and it's an instruction, it's a command, you must eat. And actually it says you must eat everything of that lamb. So not just feeding on some part of Jesus Christ, but consuming Jesus completely. Feed on Jesus. Any aspect of Jesus, let it be part of you.
Wow, yeah. Wow. Let's look at the leaven, pastors. And, in verse, where is it introduced?
14.
Verse 14. So this day shall be to you a memorial, and you shall keep it as a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. You shall keep it as a feast by an everlasting ordinance. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall remove leaven from your houses. For whoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that person shall be cut off from Israel. Why so, Pastor? Why leaven and why not eat leaven? And why be cut off if you eat or partake of leavened bread?
Well, you see, this is more of a follow-up. There is unleavened bread, and there is bitter herbs, and what have you.
Yeah.
God is giving the symbolism that is surrounded by the whole entire Exodus period. When people are leaving, it's not time for you to celebrate. The unleavened bread was bread that can withstand, going stale. The unleavened bread was bread that you can carry, that doesn't get spoiled easily. So if you're here carrying leavened bread, it will spoil. And if you put a chapati that is spoiled, next to others that are not spoiled, it will spoil the rest of them. And so that is why the warning was, whoever eats bread from the first day until the seventh, that person shall be cut off from Israel. Because
what about the element of, Christ later talks about leaven, the leaven and the unleavened.
Yes.
How do we apply that?
As I'm saying, it's the whole point was purity of everything. Yeah, unleavened bread without. I'm trying to look which word should I use.
Maybe to come in as things on the word to use. Leaven is used symbolically in the scripture to stand in the place of sin. Once you apply leaven to a dove, it pops it. Okay, it enlarges that aspect of puffing up something. Okay, once you put leaven, so when sin comes into your life, it puffs you up. It distorts your shape. It distorts your personality. It distorts your heart. People see something different from the original, the actual thing. And so it tells them, eat this without leaven. Because the lamb and the bread they are eating symbolizing the body of Christ. The body of Christ is without sin. So there's no way they could have taken a leavened bread, because then it would mean that the body of Christ is sinful. Number two, also, that aspect of puffing, it's also an aspect of pride and arrogance. Remember now, they're eating and then they're delivered. That is victory. So there was a possibility of them puffing up, exalting themselves, saying, we have overcome, and forgetting that it's God who has done it. So there are all those combinations, but I think the critical one is that leaven stands for sin. The body of Christ is without sin, and so they tend to consume substance that did not have sin, as it were.
Wow. Now, finally, about the bitter herbs, maybe in a statement, Pastor Kabira, bitter herbs,
it's still the same thing. That is verse 8. Then they shall eat the flesh on that night roasted in fire, with unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. It was not a nice experience. Including the death of Jesus Christ was not a nice experience. We celebrate the act of salvation, but it went through very painful periods. When Jesus was there in the Garden of Gethsemane, crying, shedding tears, including sweating blood, it was not something nice. God did not want the Israelites to just take these things for granted. No. Much later we'll see the Israelites complaining about the quality of food. We'll see them because the food is not good. But Jesus is trying to tell them, this is not time for you to celebrate with wonderful meals. It is time for you to remember that the bitterness you had when you were in slavery, the painful periods you've gone through, the trouble you've gone through. It's not time for you to be, many of us take the Christian journey as a very relaxed affair. We don't count it as, we don't see as if, people don't want to be pushed. Let me say, people don't want to be pushed. People don't want to go out of their safe environment. People want to worship how they want, where they want, without being pushed. Do you want to go to church? I don't feel like going to church today. It's okay. Do you want to give tithes? No, people, it's okay. Do you come with the way you are? That kind of mentality where religion and our salvation is based on your comfort zone. That is not what God wanted to pass to the Israelites. He wanted them to remember through the unleavened bread, through the bitter herbs and eating of this lamb that is blemished, that your salvation came at a cost. It didn't just come.
It was a bitter experience.
Yes.
There are a lot of things that we need to talk about, but maybe, Pastor, if we can just push this discussion to our next episode, because of time, we are way past time. But then there are a lot of things that we'll be talking about, of course, revisiting the same and looking at now the actual Passover and the last plague to the children of Israel. So, our dear viewer, we are glad that you have been with us. We know that we have not exhausted everything here. But of course, we really assure you that we'll never exhaust everything. You have to go ahead and read even more, study your word even the more. Next time, in our next episode, we'll be looking at these various issues and also going into the actual thing of the Passover and the last plague. So stay with us, be ready for the Bible journey. Next week, same time, same place. And we end with the word of prayer from Pastor Nyagah.
We thank your gracious Father. This story is so close to our hearts because we have received this salvation through this process. It also reminds us of the sacrifice of your Son on the cross, but also again takes us into the future when he is coming to take us home. And the question is, are we keeping leaven in our lives? You instruct the children of Israel that they may keep off leaven for 7 days as they prepare for that great day. We are preparing for the soon coming, but we are still keeping leaven in our lives. Lord, help us to take it away, that we may be fully prepared for the soon coming.
Amen.
We pray in Jesus' name.
Amen.